Hi Catherine, it's Lisa, and I have your Outside the Book Getting Started assignment in front of me, and I want to show you a couple of things that you can do to clean up the project and make it absolutely perfect. So first of all, what I see is these calendar-like icons on the side, and what this tells me is that there are inflexible task constraints on these tasks. So I'll show you. If I double-click any one of these, so I'm going to double-click the row header, it opens up the Task Information dialog box, and I'm going to go to the Advanced tab. And what you have right now is Start No Earlier Than, and you have a date. Now let me show you the default. The default setting is as soon as possible with no date. And when you reset it to as soon as possible with no date and click OK, you can see that calendar icon disappears. That's what you want. That's the default setting. When for example, if I type a new task down here, like print book, right? By default, there's no calendar icon. And when I double click on this, you can see in the Advanced tab, by default, it's already on as soon as possible. That's the most flexible constraint type. I'm going to go ahead and remove that. So I want to reset all of these tasks. Now the question is, how did these task constraints get in there? The only worry I have is, did you manually enter any of these dates? Be careful about that. You should never manually enter any dates. All you need to do is make sure you've got these durations set, your indentation set, your predecessor set, and then everything's just fine. So what I want to do right now is one by one go and remove all these task constraints. So I'll start at the top, double click, Advanced tab, as soon as possible, no date. Okay, next one. Double click, as soon as possible, no date. Next one. As soon as possible, no date, etc. So I'm going to get the rest of these as well. There's actually is a quick way to do them simultaneously, but there are not that many of them, and sometimes when we do a task over and over again, it just sticks in our brain, I think. So I think it's okay to do this again and again. More apt to remember it. Okay, last one. As soon as possible, no date. This is really important because if you have those constraints, the more rigid constraints you had before, the project can't expand and contract as it would normally. So in other words, if I change one of these durations to something like 10 days, it should move all the other days automatically. If I have those constraints in there, that may not happen if they're rigid constraints. Okay, we're set there. The next thing you want to do is make sure that your durations and your predecessors match the screenshot. Don't worry about the dates, because if you've got everything else set, the dates will fall into place. You want to make sure your tasks, your indentation, which looks good, your durations, and your predecessors are set. So let's bring up the actual screenshot. Here's the screenshot, and you can see we've got 0 for start site, 0 down here for launch site. Those are our milestones. Our summary tasks are 5, 10, and 12. You have the zeros, you have 5, 11 and 12, so there's something wrong here. So under 11 you've got 6, 2, and 3, but in the screenshot 5, 2, and 3. There's the problem. So we just need to change this one to 5 and hit enter. Okay, now that's set. Now the other thing you want to do is look at the predecessor column. This is your linking. And I'm not sure how you did linking. You may have highlighted rows, you may have used the linking button. I think the best way in the beginning is just to type those predecessor numbers, because you can. And because when you have any problems with linking, you end up usually going to the predecessors column to fix them anyways. So that's, you can learn the shortcuts later, but I think in the beginning just type those numbers in where they're supposed to be. So you can see you've got a 1 here, and red flag, you shouldn't have any predecessor numbers on these summary tasks, and notice that you do. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to compare to the screenshot here, and you can see the first 2 tasks here, research site, interview content owners, we got a 1 and a 3. Okay, so there shouldn't be 1 here, so I'm going to delete this one, but there should be a 1 here. Okay, and you can see the Gantt chart bars are coming in there. then there shouldn't be one here. Okay, but if I match the screenshot, this should be a 4. This should be a 6, a 7, and you can see how the bars are starting to line up. This should not be here, so we'll delete that. And this down here, this row should be have number 8 as its predecessor, right? So that should be 8. This should be 10, which you've got, and of course this should be 11. Okay, and you can see now that the bars have all lined up. Looks pretty good there. Okay. The other thing I suspect is that I see these red squiggly lines, and I don't see the column for the task mode. So I'm going to put that on and see if I can find out why these red lines are here. So I'm going to right-click this column here, and I'm going to say Insert Column. And here's the big alphabetical list. I'm going to start typing T to get down to the T section. And you can see Task Mode. I'm going to click on that one. So there's Task Mode. Now here's what I see. I see some bars, which means some of these tasks are in auto schedule mode, but you can see like this one, and there's that, it corresponds with the red squiggly line. This one's got a push pin, this one's got a push pin, red flag. That means you can see up here they're manually scheduled. When you see that, you want to keep this column on all the time. Highlight that row and click on auto schedule, put that back in auto schedule. Same thing with row 9, back in auto schedule. Okay, and you can see the red lines disappear. And really the beauty of this, let me play with this just for a second, is if I change this duration, if all of a sudden it becomes 10 days, right, and I just change it to 10, boom, you can see all these dates adjust. And if the project contracts and it goes back to 3 days, boom, all these dates adjust. When you have those constraints or you have manually scheduled tasks, that won't happen. Everything is rigid, and you might as well use Excel. This is the beauty of Project. So this is why we remove those task constraints, or we make them as flexible as possible, and we make sure our predecessors are set, etc. Okay, so this looks really good. The next thing, if you compare the dates, it starts on the 7th, and way down here it ends on the 13th. Okay, right now you are starting on the 21st and ending on the 26th. Now again, the temptation is to change the dates here, but you never want to touch the dates. Something's wrong if you're touching the dates. But the question is, how do you set the first date? Well, the first date is different. The first date gets set up here in Project tab, Project Information button, right? And you want to set this here, and the instructions said to set it to January 7th. Okay, I'll click OK. Okay, we're almost set. We've got it starting on the 7th, it ends on the 12th, but it's 1 day off. Just 1 day off of this project here. And so the question is why? If you look back through the instructions, there was an instruction that said make sure you mark as a holiday the Martin Luther King birthday observed. So remember, that's back in Change Working Time. So I'm on the Project tab, Change Working Time button, and it looks like you've got something here, but it's unnamed and it's accidentally on the 7th. Maybe you thought this was the start date. This is for holidays. So these exception days are holidays. So I'm going to delete this one. Whoops. I'm going to click on it, press delete, and instead I'm going to type MLK Day Observed. Okay. And it starts and ends on January 20th, 2014. Okay, I'll move away from it. You can see in the calendar the 20th is now highlighted. And watch what happens. When I click OK, since that day is marked as a non-working holiday, boom, the calendar switches to 2/13. So now absolutely everything is perfect. It's all lined up and ready to go. So what I'd like you to do is go through your project file, make those changes to clean this up, resubmit the file for full credit. This is really fundamental parts of projects, so I want everyone to feel really comfortable with this. So go ahead and do that, and again, I'll score it for full credit. All right, thanks a lot, Catherine. I'll talk to you soon.